Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the Global Youth Service Day webinar on developing partnerships. So we are so glad that you could join us for this virtual event today to hear from our guest speaker and YES alumni about their experiences and how you can implement your own GYSD projects. So my name is Bree Iser and I am the YES program coordinator at Iron USA, and I will be facilitating this webinar. So before we begin, let's just go over a few quick notes about Zoom features so that all attendees can participate seamlessly in today's webinar. We first would like to invite attendees to put in the chat or your title card where you're joining us from today. For this webinar, you will not have access to your video or audio, but you are able to use the chat feature. So we encourage you to use the chat feature to ask any questions you may have. We will have a designated Q&A session at the end of the presentations, but we do encourage you to ask your questions throughout the webinar. In addition, please note that we have automatic live captioning, and you can access the live captioning by clicking the CC Live Transcript button on your Zoom toolbar. We also have ASL interpreters who will be spotlighted as panelists. We are recording this webinar and will upload it to the YES YouTube page and website with subtitles a few days after the event. So before we get into our agenda for the webinar, I would like to briefly go over Global Youth Service Day, or GYSD for short. So GYSD is an international event hosted by Youth Service America that works to foster and encourage youth to create, collaborate, and implement community service projects in all areas of the world. So this year, the GYSD weekend will be April 29th to May 1st. So if you're interested in learning more about the event, please find the website link in the chat. If you have already started a project, we definitely encourage you to register your project on the YSA website. We will also be posting more about GYSD on YES social media in the following weeks leading up to the event. So for our today and for today's webinar, we will have a presentation by our expert guest speaker. After his presentation, each of our YES alumni will give 10-minute presentations highlighting their own community project experience and their key takeaways for developing partnerships. We'll conclude our webinar with a Q&A session where you'll be able to ask our speaker and YES alumni any questions you have. So now I'd like to briefly introduce our expert guest speaker, Dao Nguyen, before handing it over to him for his presentation. So Dao Nguyen is the Global Youth Trainer on Meaningful Youth Engagement and ASEAN Head Delegate to the G20 Youth Summit. He is pursuing a master's degree at Peking University as a Yangqing Scholar and Baishan Asia Future Leader. He co-founded the student think tank for Europe-Asia Relations, where he leads a team of 70 people from nearly 40 countries. Dao is passionate about international cooperation, social inclusion, and digital connectivity. And with that, I will now hand it over to Dao to begin his presentation.
Thank you so much, Bree. So I will start sharing the screen now. All right. What we need to change. It seems like I just all right, I got it. Right, can you guys see full screen right now?
Yes,
yeah,
we can see your screen.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks so much, and so sorry for the technological error. So first of all, thank you so much for coming here. My name is Dao. I'm from Vietnam, and I will introduce myself later. But first of all, I want to talk about like the topic today, which is developing partnership. So I don't know if when it comes to partnership, so which keyword that often come to your mind. I think that you can like comment in the chat, like which keyword that you often think about. So I think that previously I did the same session about engagement and partnership with UNESCO and so different UN stuff. And oftentimes like they associate partnership with something, for example, like win-win relationship, responsible, mutual benefits, and so on. But for me, I think that there are two key things for me when it comes to partnership. The first one is communication, because like partnership is mean that there will be more than one actor, or at least more than one person in the relationship. I mean, not like romantic relationship, but like work or business or like partnership for any purposes. So it means that the key concept in partnership is we need to communicate with each other. And the second one, I think, is mutual benefits, because as you know, that two is always better than one. So that's why. And also because like most of us here, I think I assume that we are young people. So actually like we are kind of one of the vulnerable group in the society, according to the definition of the United Nations. We have less resources, we have less power in society. So that's why we really need to collaborate with each other, and we need to collaborate with like other senior organization, a senior people, and also like other stakeholders as well in society to really like achieve our goal. So that is why we need partnership. And I think that that's why I'm invited here to talk about developing partnership. So let's start. But first of all, I want to talk about disclaimer. So all of the opinions and also the experience or sharing here expressed in this session will be solely on my own, and it do not reflect the views or opinions of any organizations. So in the lectures today, it's not actually in sharing today, so I will talk about the G20 Youth Summit, also UNESCO, and also my think tank, which is like still a think tank for Europe-Asia relations. But these all opinions in sharing here only reflect my own reflections and also my opinions rather than the official viewpoint of the organization. So first about myself. So my name is Dao, as you know, and thank you, Bri, for your lovely introduction. So actually, currently I'm a consultant, special consultant, and also the youth channel on meaningful youth engagement at UNESCO in Paris, France. And I'm also serving as the head ASEAN delegate of the G20 Youth Summit. So you don't know that it is like the biggest youth summit, apart from the UN summit, apart from the UN Youth Summit in the world, which aims to foster the relationship and the like, youth exchange between 20 biggest economies in the world, plus like some other other important stakeholders, for example, ASEAN, the World Bank, the United Nations, and so on. And I'm also the co-founder and president of a senior think tank for Europe-Asia relations. So I will talk about all the experience later to demonstrate how I developed the partnership across different continents and different countries. So here's the agenda. So we will have like the 5 main part. The first one, I will talk about the type of stakeholder. So what are the main type of stakeholders you can engage and you can develop the partnership? The second one, I will talk about how to scope and build the partnership from scratch, because I know that many of us are young people. So perhaps we don't really know like how to start. So I think I was also really struggling to start my partnership before. So that's why I'm here to at least like hopefully share my experience, and hopefully it can like help you guys a little bit. And the third one is pitching. So actually it is, I think I consider it as the most important thing to get a partnership. You know how you have to know like how to solve your idea, your project, and also like what the potential impact, and it will help you to connect and also to connect and also to gain like the partnership, which means like you have like access to their resources, their support, human resources, financial resources, and so on. The fourth one, which is like a sustaining partnership. And I think that this one is often overlooked when it comes to partnership, because oftentimes like our project is kind of short-term project. So when we finish like the project, then we get rid of the partnership. But I mean that based on experience, then we always come back to the same thing that we do. For example, like when you are 18 or 19, you develop a project, and then later when you are 20 or 21, then you might want to start something similar as well. So actually maintaining the partnership is very important. So you can always come back to the person or to the organization that you talk to, and then ask for the establishment of the partnership. I also did this during the past few years, and I also mentioned this in the last part as well. So, and then the final part, which is the Q&A, but unfortunately, because of the time, so I will just have a common Q&A session with other guest speaker, but feel free to send the question to the Q&A chat, to the chat, so I can try to answer this if it's direct to me. Awesome. So the first one is stakeholders. So I think that this one is very basic, but oftentimes we often overlook this one, or we are kind of try to have a really narrow-minded mindset as we come to which organization we can partner with. So this one is based on the framework of United Nations. So that's why you can see United Nations is a separate actor here, and also it's one of the biggest actor in the world. But actually, I think that for some scholars and some researchers, they actually include United Nations into the civil society and also the think tank as well. So you can see here that we are youth, young people, and we can either try to establish our collaboration with business, with the United Nations. Of course, they are really supportive when it comes to youth activities, academia. So in case you want to run a project, for example, about mental health or something, then of course, you will need to contact some mental health expert to know more about the subject and also the topic that you're trying to advocate for, or you're trying to solve the problem. Civil society, of course, government, of course, and also foundation. So I think foundation here is very important. I think that if you are in Southeast Asia, because I'm from Vietnam, so I think you will be more familiar with ASEAN Foundation. And I think that in the US and also in Asia as well, they have Asia Foundation as well. Another foundation that is very important in Asia-Europe relation is Asia-Europe Foundation. So this foundation will help you to, will grant you funding together the business to run your project, because I think that most of the project will need financial support as well. So here actually how partnership go. You can see here that we have 4 steps for the partnership. So here's the intro point. So you can have imperative to partner. So there are 4 steps. The first one is scope and building. The second one is managing and maintaining. The third one is reviewing and revising. And the fourth one and the final step is moving on. So actually, due to the time limit, so I will mainly talk about scoping and building, and also managing and managing and maintaining in this talk. But actually, the phase 2 and the phase 3 together actually make the implementation phase with ongoing review, revision, and also iteration of the partnership. So as the first one, but yeah, I know that you raised your hand, but I will answer this after my talk if it's work for you. So as for the first one, we have scoping and building. So I think that typically it involves mapping the landscape of relevant stakeholders and initiatives, and also you are trying to engage key stakeholders to build a full understanding of the issue. For example, as I mentioned, mental health or gender equality or something similar. I know that we have so many topics that we want to work on across the world, and you also try to identify the stakeholders that are likely to be partners, and then undertake the process of engagement and negotiate to collectively develop a value-creating partnership. The second stage, which is managing and maintaining, but I think that I will talk about it later, more detail in the third part of the presentation. But I think after that, I can ask Bree to send you guys the documents. Actually, the UN has a very detailed document on which type of partnership and how to build the partnership and sustain the partnership. So if you are interested, then I can tell YES to send all of the participants this document as well. So moving on, I think that CNI works for United Nations. So one of the main questions I guess I get all the time is how to involve in United Nations activities, and is the United Nations supporting the youth activities across the world? So my question is yes, but one of the main problem is we don't really know like how to engage with the United Nations. And I think I think this will be really nice as well for you guys to know that how like we work in the United Nations and how we try to engage youth, young people. I think young people in our definition is pretty broad. I think it can be from 15 to 35, it depends. But at UNESCO, we tend to define youth as from 16 to 26. The scope of youth is very big, so we try to be flexible. And once you know how we engage the like youth, young people, then you can actually like, initiate the partnership with the United Nations. So we have 4 degrees of youth engagement at UNESCO, and we are actually, I think it will be populated within the UN as well, because I had been training this meaningful youth engagement framework for various UN agencies across the world. So we have 4 main types. The first one is youth consultant. The second one is youth contributing. The third one is youth as partners, and the last one is youth as leaders. So first, for the youth consultant, so actually it's the very first step, and actually many young people now today only stop at the first step, youth consultant. So actually in this step, your project or your programs will be initiated and managed by the United Nations, and young people are consulted for the ideas and perspective on the specific issue, and young people will not have direct control over the outcome of the project. The second one is youth contributing, which is kind of similar to the first one, but actually like you have more space to contribute to the implementation process and also the monitoring process, but actually you still don't have the direct control over the outcome. The third one, which is becoming increasingly important to the United Nations and young people across the world, which is youth as partner. So as for this one, the project will be initiated by the United Nations, by young people, or by both, and youth are engaged in the active partnership and an open dialogue with the UN agency in all stages of strategic decision making. For example, like decision making, the first one. The second one is the second one is planning. The third one is implementation, and the last one is evaluation. And you have like a direct power to influence the outcome. And the last one, which is like youth as leaders. So I think that YES actually try to promote this one, because I know that after you graduate from the program, then you're encouraged to initiate a project. So actually, you are the leader of the project. So, and the UN like really encourage you guys to reach out to the United Nations and also try to establish the partnership, the cooperation between your project and the United Nations in your country, or like in your, it depends on the scope. For example, it's a local or the national project, then you can reach out to the UN in your country. But if it's like a regional project, then you can reach out to the regional UN office. For example, in Asia, I believe it's the UN Bangkok, the Asia Pacific Regional Hub in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. So that is like the general framework of youth engagement. But you know that like we often receive so many projects and so many offers to become like the partner of a project. So how you can secure a partnership with the United Nations or with other organizations across the world as well. So I will answer this in the next part. So I think that it would be nice if you can organize this as a rapid fire question, in which I will raise some key question and I will try to answer that. But I know that there will be no right or wrong answer, or there will be no fixed or one size fits all approach or answer to all the questions. So you guys are feel free to more than welcome to comment your answer to the chat as well, and I will try to go through it after my presentation. So the first one is regarding scope and building. So there are 2 key questions here. The first one, how to find a suitable partner. And the second one, how to decide which organization you want to work with. So these are the two very important questions. And I think most of the time, people don't really care about this step because, I mean, I have been mentoring for some youth projects in my country and in my region as well. But most of the time, they really overlook, they overlook like how to find, how to research, and how to decide which partner or which organization that they want to establish a partnership with. So here's my answer for this question. I will take my role at the ASEAN Y20 delegation as an example. So you can see here that we have 4 people for the G20 Youth Summit this year. One of the main problems that we have is this is the first time in history ASEAN delegation is invited to the G20 summit. And it is different from other delegations that we don't really have an organization behind us. So normally like each country in the G20 will have like one youth organization which will take charge of like the recruiting process and so supporting them in organizing activities and dropping the policy proposal, but we don't have. So what we actually have is just like 4 people, and we had to run all the activities to write the policy proposal ourselves and do everything ourselves on our own. And another problem that we have is because we only have 4 people, so it's actually like it's incredibly hard because we don't have the legitimacy to collaborate with other stakeholders in ASEAN, because it is the first time we joined the Y20 summit, and it's really hard for people to believe that we actually exist because we just like joined like I think in the last 3 months. So how can we develop the partnership? So I will tell you what we do. First of all, we conduct the partnership mapping. So we try to find the alignment of interest from different organizations. So because we represent ASEAN region, so one of the things we often do is we try to look at the two levels. The first one is the national level, because like we have been trying to reach out to different youth organizations across like 10 ASEAN countries and try to ask them to collaborate. So it's the first one. And the second one is more important. It is the international, is like a regional organization. And we identify that there are 3 most important international regional organization that we want to work with. The first one is the ASEAN Secretariat. So it's kind of similar to the group of the, it's like an intergovernmental organization which gathers all the 10 ASEAN governments together. So it's the most important most important organization in ASEAN. The second one is ASEAN Foundation, so as I mentioned before. So they kind of take charge of like youth activity, education, business as well. So they kind of cover everything, but they focus more on the civil society and young people. The third one is ASEAN University Network, which is like the gathering of different universities across 10 ASEAN member countries. So after we find all the organization, and the last one is the ASEAN Youth Organization, which is like the biggest youth organization in ASEAN. So we try to find the potential angles to collaborate with each of them. For example, we want to organize webinar with them. So we try to reach out to the ASEAN Youth Organization because they're also youth organization, and they also want to promote like different topics at the Y20. For example, diversity and inclusion, or sustainable development, or digital transformation, or youth employment. That's why we try to find the right angle to collaborate with them, which is to organize event with them. And for the ASEAN Secretariat, because it's like the intergovernmental organization, so they actually have the power. So what we do is we try to reach out to them and try to advocate for our policy proposal and try to convince them to include our policy proposal into their work plan on youth And last one for the ASEAN Foundation and ASEAN University Network. So we try to invite them to come to our webinar to speak. So by doing so, then we can increase our legitimacy across like Southeast Asia, because if it is only 4 of us, then nobody cares. But if we can invite high-level speakers, then it will increase our legitimacy to our event and to our activities. So this is the second step. The third one is find the potential common connection in your network. Actually, it's very important. So fortunately, that I have a really wide network in Southeast Asia, because I have been working for the interning and working and joining the Zomi program in ASEAN as well. So I can always try to find some connection here. I already have like existing connection with them. But in case that you don't have any like existing connection with them, then perhaps email and call them will be the only. So first of all, you try to find like a common connection. Maybe your friend knows someone at the organization you want to reach out to. So try to find your network first and ask this person to refer you to the organization that you want to work with. But if you don't really have any common connection, then email and call them with a concrete pitch will work. And I think that I want to emphasize here is the concrete pitch. So I think, for example, at Steer, previously, I think we start with 2 and then 10 young people, and we start from scratch. So no one know who we are. But at that time, we just send the email with like the detailed explanation and invitation letter to the head of diplomacy and foreign affairs of the UK government, and also like to the many ambassador and executive director of Asia Europe Foundation, World Bank, and IMF, and they all agree to speak and work with us. So I think so that's why I said that the concrete pitch is very important. And actually, next one I will talk about pitching and how you can create a very meaningful, attractive, and like impactful pitching to pitch to potential partners. So there are 2 key questions here as well, and you're also more than welcome to comment your answer in the chat or in the Q&A. The first one is what methods for contacting potential partner, and the second one is any tips for pitching yourself in your project to potential partners. So I think that what I often do when I deliver training is I always demonstrate my answer with an example. And it's very convenient because I'm leading an organization, so I can try to demonstrate how I reach out to a partner, reach out to different partners, and most of the time they say yes to our proposal. All right, so so this is our pitch, and you can learn about this, or like you can just take it as an example, or you can just like take out some key points that you want to learn. So it is just an example, and as I mentioned, that is no one size fits all approach. So it's like definitely depends on your country, your local community. I mean, a different culture, different country have different behaviors or different like traditions. So you need to adjust the proposal accordingly. So first of all, when we pitch, then we start talking about our project in a very short description. So actually, STEER stands for Student Think Tank for Europe-Asia Relations. So actually, we aim to strengthen the relationship and deepen the cultural ties between people, actually like focus more on young people living across Europe-Asia relation. And we had 3 pillars. So actually, when you talk about your activities, you have to have like one short description, and then you can talk about pillar. So actually, pillar here is kind of what you aim to achieve. The first one is to maximize the number of young voices in Asia, Europe, Spain. The second one is build a diverse and inclusive community. And the last one is strengthening the mutual understanding between Asia and Europe. So first of all, number of young voices in Asia, Europe, Spain. So it's advocacy. The second one is building a diverse and inclusive community. So it's kind of cultural. And the last one is strengthen the mutual understanding between Asia and Europe. So it's also cultural. So they are kind of interrelated with each other. And you have to also talk about your vision, because your vision is very important to show that it's not a really short-term project, but it's a long-term and what you want to achieve in the future. First of all, we want to serve as the first and leading policy institute for students and young professionals in Europe and Asia. So if we try to analyze this sentence, first and leading, because I think that 2 years ago, so there is no organization, youth-led organization that focusing on Europe-Asia relation is solved. So actually, we try to fill that gap, and it comes at the very right time when the pandemic happened and people crave for connection online. So that's why it works. And for student and young professional, so actually when you establish a project, then oftentimes you need to find who is the target of your project. And here our target is student and young professional. And next one, we try to provide the bridge between two continents and strengthen the multilateral cooperation and international prosperity. So it is actually really relevant to our pillars here. And next, so if you want to run a project, then the pupil who run this is very important. So you can see here that we have like 12 board members. So they are the lead, so they are leader of the organization. And what we often do is we don't really include the name, because no one cares about your name unless you're very popular. So what we include here, first of all, is the nationalities. But if you do like a project within a country or like in your local community, then you can talk about like different cities or like different district, even different district in your local community, because diversity currently is very important, and all countries support diversity, even though sometimes it's kind of tokenism and they don't really support, but they have to pretend like this. So diversity is actually one of the unique selling point that you can try to touch on when you pitch the project. And the second one is when it is established, then your partner, the potential partner, actually try to look at who run it. So the human resources are very important when they evaluate your project, because maybe your idea is not really exciting, but like the people who run it are very exciting and have so much potential. So like we also like try to invest in your project as well. And you also have to talk about your milestone. So actually maybe at the start you don't have the milestone, but I think that after 3 or 4 months, then you can have your milestone that you can pitch. And you also have to talk about core activity as well. But I think that because of the time limitation, because I am almost running out of my time, so I will skip this part. But you can try to really categorize the type of activities that you try to run, and then you talk about like what impact you really want to achieve through these core activities. And the last one is why support. So we list here 4 reasons that the potential sponsor partnership should support or establish our partnership with us. And I won't read it out loud, but we have different keyword here: visibility, relationship, future leaders, and pioneers. So they are very important to many organizations, including the UN. So there are 3 top tips here. First, feature story. So tell us the story about your idea, not just facts and figures. I believe facts and figures are really important, but there's also another important factor that many people ignore. It's the human terms. So that's why we list our board of directors to show that we have a very potential board of director, and you guys should establish the partnership with us. The second one is highlight the impacts. So you need to highlight who will be affected and the impact of this project will have on them. That's very important as well. The last one is sell your solution. So when you pitch, then you should talk about like how it will help the people in the room to reach their goals. For example, like if it's business and they have to have like social responsibility, so how invest in your project can help them to increase their social responsibility for the United Nations, then how it will have the United Nations to have like more youth across the community, across the country, or across the region, or even the world. So this is the first one. The second one is how to sustain, how to develop and sustain a partnership. So this one is also really important. So I want to talk about a typical cycle in partnership. So the first one is a honeymoon period. So you will have like initial excitement between two parties or two or more parties. And you might think it's very creative and innovative thinking and planning, and everything is pretty good. But actually, I think that sometimes it is really smooth, but sometimes it hits like so many roadblocks. I remember that previously when we tried to establish a partnership with an organization. So at first, everything was perfect, but after that, they didn't reply our email, our message as well. That is why it comes to the second one, which is failure. So I do believe that it is unavoidable. So people will, or even like yourself, your project, your loss of engagement or interest, and everything is too difficult to communicate and to partner. So what you have to do is to build up everything. So I think that what we often do is if they are not interested, they don't reply the email, and you try to send follow-up email. So oftentimes when people send the email to me and ask for collaboration, so at first I'm kind of very like hesitant to say yes or no. But if they send me the follow-up email, then at least I will for sure reply them, and it will increase the possibility of the percent that I will accept their offer. And the last one is performance. So it is like the really ideal stage when both partners will find like the harmony and the system and process will work effectively with each other. So how to maintain the partnership, or actually how to reach the last step, which is like the performance, excellent performance. So first of all, be a lovely partner. So I think this is very personal, but it works really well. And as I said, that we really care about like the value of cultures, behaviors, and traditions, like in all the contexts across the world. So actually what I often do is I often send wishes and congratulations to my partner during New Year, Eve, or like relevant special occasions. For example, like currently the Songkran festival in Thailand. So if you have a partner in Thailand and try to send them a wish or like congrat note, so it will really help to build a good image in front of your partner eye. Second one, check in regularly. So even if you don't collaborate with them like within the time, because like you have another priority with other partner, but remember to send them an update regularly. I mean, every 4 months, every 6 months will be a suitable timeline, because like your partner, even like you don't really collaborate them within this period of time, but they always feel like they're engaged and you really care for them. And the last one is goodwill. So always express your interest to collaborate with them in the long term. So why I mentioned long term, because like normally when young people, so often like they are less experienced and they just want to gain as much benefit as possible, and they often ignore the long-term interest and the long-term benefits. So actually like you need to see the big picture and always emphasize that you want to collaborate with them in the long term. And I don't know, but like I think that in the professional world, then people always want to do two things like semi at the same time. So actually, if you want to establish a long-term partnership, then it's likely that they will accept your offer rather than a really short-term, like 3 or 4 months, because it's kind of a waste of the time, and it is like they will be less willing to take or develop the partnership. So yep, so there's a quote here. We are without exception need partnership to achieve extraordinary things. So this is my last slide. Try to connect the dots. So try to reach out to people. Don't be shy, because you will know that they will be very willing to help them, especially when we are young people. We are the vulnerable group in the society. So I think that older generation, senior pupil, or like other well-established organization will be more than willing to help you guys. So I think that's all about my presentation. And if you guys have any questions, so feel free to ask me. Back to you, Bree.
Great. Thank you so much, Dow, for your presentation. It was wonderful. And it was great to hear so many great personal experiences just with you working with youth and working on community service projects, and also some really good advice for kind of creating those sustainable and impactful projects as well. It was really great. And then, as Dow mentioned, just as a reminder, definitely please continue to use the chat box to ask Dow or any of our YES alumni questions, and we'll be able to address your questions during the Q&A session. So we are now going to switch gears and hear from our YES alumni. So I'll start with introducing our first presenter, Rizona Alam. So Rizona is a 2019 YES alumna from Bangladesh. She is currently the General Secretary for the YES Alumni Bangladesh Association and is also a graphic designer and artist. She has done projects like Project Currencia, an open art exhibition and competition, which relied on participation and reaching out to different clubs in the community. I'll now hand it over to Rizona to speak more about her experience with developing partnerships.
Thank you so much, Bree. Is my voice audible to everyone? Is it clear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving me the floor. As Bree has mentioned, I'm a YES 19 alumna. I was placed in Texas, and since I got back, I have been actively working in my community and doing a whole lot of projects with all the other YES alumni members. And one of the projects, most of the projects I did were relied on partnerships, but I had two projects which were heavily relied on partnerships. One of the first projects that I did, which I began my partnership journey with, was Project Rokto Joba. Rokto Joba stands for hibiscus. This project was it was surrounded around the taboo in our community about the menstrual health of little girls. When we first start getting our menstruation, when menstruation starts, it's a very taboo topic in our community. So I came up with my friends, and we thought that this is something that people should really talk about, and especially the little girls, they should be aware about this, because this is not something that should be hidden. It's a natural thing. Every woman goes through this. So we had done this project with the people, especially the underprivileged girls, because these are the people that were not getting this information clearly and directly from their parents. And they were also if something had gone wrong with them, they were very scared to go to doctors or visit gynecologists regarding these matters, because there's always this thing that what are people gonna say, what's the society gonna say if such a young girl visits a gynecologist. So when we did this project, we had teamed up with a medical manufacturing company called SMC, and they had provided us with, we went and talked to them. Firstly, we emailed them because we wanted to give all these girls a hamper package, which included sanitary napkins. So we thought that if we reach out to these companies and share them our cause and our reasoning behind this project, they might help us and give us some of the napkins for free so we can distribute it among the girls. So we emailed them, and after a day or so, we had not received a response. So we thought that, okay, let's call them. Their phone number was on their website. We had called them, and then after listening to us, they told us, okay, come visit our office and we can talk about this a bit more. So we had visited their office. We showed them that this is a legit organization. This project we're doing is from an actual organization. We had included our recruitment organization, Iron Bangladesh, and we had given them a letter of confidence that this is the letter, and we are officially inviting you to be a collaborator in this project. So after that, they agreed to give us that, and the only thing they wanted in return of us was when we were doing promotions regarding this project, they wanted us to use their logo in the promotions of the project. And we had also brought in some trainers, some medical trainers, and they were also given by the company, well, not the company, a hospital. The hospital sent in their intern gynecologists, the residents that were there, and asked us that these people could be trainers. And we had given these trainers and some of the doctors information to these little girls as these are the people you can actually go to and you will not be judged by anyone if you go to them. And other than this project, the other project we had was Project Corencia. Project Corencia was on an art exhibition, and this project, we did this project last year around time during GYSD projects we had did that was very heavily relied on partnerships. So projects, this project was one project we did, and it was also relied on participants because these participants, when they took part in our project, they had to pay us a small fee, and that fee went as a fundraiser for the next project. And to get these participants, because last year when we did this project, our country was in complete lockdown. We couldn't travel anywhere. We couldn't go to companies and talk to them. We couldn't visit any clubs and talk to them. So the alumni community that we had here, they're themselves in many clubs, like photography club, art club, and everything. So one of the themes we had for art was gender equality and domestic balance. And then we had a photography theme, and we also had a cosplay section. So for all these things, for all the participants, to get all the participants, we talked to different school clubs and university clubs. Our alumni played a very big role in getting all these collaborations and getting all these clubs to talk to us, because as these alumni were already a part of these clubs, those clubs had much more faith in them and believed them when they said, yes, this is the cause, this project is actually for this cause. So the clubs we had partnered with, one of the clubs were BD cosplayers. So these were people, it was a community, it was a very big community, and I had no idea about them, that this community exists in Bangladesh. And there were many people who were cosplayers there. So we had talked to the head of the club, and we told them, so this is what we're doing, this is the project, and this is the fundraising that's going there. And he was more than happy to work with us, and he said that he will help us in any way. And he sent in a whole lot of cosplayers, and the cosplayers got to know about this and they were interested. So it was all from word of mouth that went around. And the other club we had collaborated with was IUB Dance Club, because we also had a performing arts section, and IUB Dance Club had sent in a lot of the students that were a part of that club who sent in the admissions. The admission fee was pretty small for all the people. Our only hurdle that we had was to getting the participants to get the word of mouth to people, to let people know about this project. That helped us a lot, and the alumni that were part of this project had a very big role to play in this. So that is all I have for my experience of collaborating with projects and everything. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Arizona, for your presentation. It was wonderful to hear about your experience a little bit more with pitching ideas and projects, especially in communities where you might not be as familiar with it, and also just communicating with organizations through your projects. It was really great to see that too. So again, everyone, just continue to use the chat to ask any questions of our alumni about their projects, their experiences, and also questions for our expert guest speaker, Dow, as well. So our next presenter is Joseph Lamba. So I'm just going to quickly introduce him before his presentation. So Joseph is a 2013 YES alumnus from Cameroon. He is the president of the Cameroon YES Alumni Association and chairs the training of YES exchange students from Cameroon. He has led a number of community service projects and volunteers for a few local NGOs in his community. He is also currently completing a postgraduate degree in international law. So now I'll hand it over to Joseph to speak a little bit more about his experience and his projects.
All right, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I hope you can get me very well. I first of all want to apologize because my internet connection is not very stable at the best to go through the presentation. So I'll share my experience. I'll share like a couple of projects that I've done and that required me to partner. I understand that most of the time partnering like especially in a new community or maybe with people that you are not very used to, can be quite challenging, but all right, so I'll prefer to switch off my camera to have the internet more, in fact, more clearer. So as I was saying, it can be quite challenging to partner with new people or with new organizations, especially when you are not used to or it's your first experience. So here in this my presentation, I'm going to share my experience, like my first time ever to engage into partnering and how it went and how it actually helped me solve some difficulties in my project. The first project I want to highlight is a community project that I carried out in 2014 that was saving our environment. I was actually very new to this particular community because it was like my first year ever to stay there, and I won a yes small grant to carry out this project. So now after all preparations, I was faced now with a serious challenge of gathering volunteers to actually do the work, because the project included a field work, because we had to clean up all the streets in the community, and also after the cleanup campaign, we had to do a small sensitization campaign and teach the people how to maintain the environment clean. And yeah, so I was faced with that challenge, and what I did was I went to the people I knew best, which was my uncle in the community. So I met with him and I explained him what I wanted to do and where I'm stuck. I told him that I'm actually stuck in getting mobilizing all the youths in the community to actually come out to do the volunteering campaign. So he actually told me to go and meet the traditional ruler of the community and explain to him the project, and maybe he'll be very much delighted in forming a partnership between his uh, uh, um, his group and my team for the project. So that's actually what I went. I actually took an appointment and he received me. So he asked me to explain my project and what I actually plan on doing. So I explained to him in brief, and I equally told him how the project will be beneficial, because that's also one of the things in partnering. You are partnering is kind of like a win-win relationship that you want to create. You don't only want maybe your project to be executed and the next partner not to benefit anything. So I actually shared with him the benefit he could get for maybe his campaign to be elected again as a community leader, and equally the advantage that the community is going to have through the project. So he was very happy for the project, and during the execution of the project, he actually was in charge of mobilizing all the youths in the community, since he was the community leader, and he had some great influence. He passed an announcement and made it mandatory for all the youths of the community to mobilize on a Sunday morning, to carry on the cleanup campaign. And at the end of the day, it was actually great. It was a great project. And the sensitization campaign, he even gave us his house, his own personal house, to carry on the sensitization campaign we wanted to do. So that made the project a huge success, because at the end of the day, we cleaned up about 6 to 7 streets in the community, the main streets that were really untidy with bush and dirt everywhere. So we helped cleaned everything. And what I actually like the most about the project and about the partnership is the sustainability part, because at the end of the day, actually the community, the traditional ruler himself, he actually took the project as a community project in his own in that community. So even after the day that we carry on the grant, the project continued every year till now. So the next project I want to highlight is an online project, because even during the pandemic, it was a challenge to actually meet people and talk to them. So now everything had to be done online. The partnership, looking for partners, everything was done online. So that was also a step that I actually, how can I say, it was actually something that I actually learned a lot in building partnership, even online, even through online platforms like WhatsApp and social media and all those stuff. So in this project, it was actually to teach. The aim of the project was to teach young people on public speaking, and to carry on the project, I had to partner with experts, with people that could actually do the teaching. So I actually contacted some two main organizations here in Cameroon. There was one organization, the Commonwealth Student Union, which I'm also a volunteer member there in my school, and equally the Cameroon Association for the United Nations. So I reach out to their various presidents, and we try to exchange ideas, and we build this project together. We actually the partnership, I didn't just maybe inform them to join me in this project, but I actually told them the idea that I had and what I wanted to do, and that I wanted us to do it together. So we brainstormed on the idea together. We created the content, validated even the schedule. Everything was being done with the partner, and at the end of the day, the project was actually a great success, because it actually reached out to about 160 youth. So I'm going to end here because I'm already getting out of time. I was equally going to talk about a third project, which was a Christmas project, but I will not actually dwell on that, because it's actually similar to the Saving Our Environment project, since it was also my first experience in building partnerships. So here I only wanted to present to show how maybe a partnership can be done even online, or even if you are new in a community. And I'll bring you back to what Dao said at the end of his presentation, at the last slide, that he said, okay, you need to be bold. You need to be bold to reach out to people, and feel free to disclose your idea, because transparency for me was one of the most important tool in building the partnership. The partnership was transparency. You need to actually tell your partner exactly what you're doing, and at every given step you need to put them like you need to inform them of your next move, or anything that the project entails. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions to know more about the project, maybe you can still leave it in the Q&A section, or maybe in the chat box, and we'll get to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Joseph, for your presentation, and also just getting to highlight some of your amazing projects that you've done. It was really great to hear that. And also just hear about how you went about developing a lot of different partnerships in a lot of different situations with a lot of different people. So it was really great to see that. And again, like Joseph said, if you do have any questions for either Joseph, Rizona, or Dao at this point, definitely remember to keep writing them in the chat, and we'll get to them during the Q&A session. So now I'd like to introduce our final speaker, Billy Koulibaly. So Billy is a 2012 YES alumna from Mali, and has had leading roles in the YES Alumni Association of Mali, serving as the vice president, then treasurer of the association for 3 consecutive years. She's also the president and co-founder of Mali's Hope, which has been fighting against poverty and advocating for education, health, and social inclusion since 2016. Every year, she leads and supports community service activities to impact more than 2,000 people, and uses her developing partnership skills to do so. I'll now hand it over to Billy to speak more on her experience.
Hi, everyone. Hello, Bree. Thank you for the introduction. I just want to quickly check in if everybody can hear me correctly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep.
Okay. For the sake of the internet connection, I think I'll do as Joseph. I'll turn off the camera in order for the internet to remain stable while I speak, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Thanks, Billy.
Okay. So my name is Philly, and I'm going to speak more on the perspective of not on of a YES alumni, but more on the perspective of the president of a youth association and what it's like to be the president of a youth association here in Mali. So I think we can move to the presentation, the little presentation that I've made. This is just to illustrate that talking about community service or community project means including everybody within the community for your community service projects, because these activities are going to impact the people within the community. So I think my presentation is going to be more as a storytelling type, because I want to highlight how we came up with the idea of this association, Mali Jigi Mali's Hope, and how it led to developing all these partnerships that we have now. So Mali Jigi is an association that we started when we returned back home from our YES program. It was in 2012. We were participating into a lot of alumni projects that we were conducting, but unfortunately our friends from school and some of the friends around us wanted to participate to some of these projects and some of these activities and trainings that we were doing, but they were only available to alumni. Most of them. So in order to make our activities more inclusive and broader, we decided to create the association that we called Mali Jigi. So Mali Jigi started with me and some other friends from high school. We created the organization, and then the main idea of the organization was to advocate for education at first, but then it kind of broadened because we had so many people participating from so many different walks of life, and then we moved from high school to go to university. So all of the people from all these different sectors learning different things became part of the association, and it just kind of went in many different directions. So we went from education to making donations, to advocating for girls and women's rights, to advocate for interfaith harmony, and also to do this main activity that we do every year for 7 years now, which is called Opération Ramadan. So to talk briefly about Mali Jigi, the first activity was kind of going around in schools and advocate for education for people that didn't have access to schools because of their family situation, their financial situations, and so on. So the first year of the activity consisted of going around in schools and asking them, is it okay if we put baskets in the schoolyard so the students that have school items and clothes and whatever things that they're not using, that they used to take to school but they're not using anymore, is it possible for them to bring it to school, and we're going to collect them and bring them to other kids that would need them in order to attend school. And when we went to the school, many of the schools received the idea very nicely because it was something entirely new in Mali and nobody had ever come up with a project like that. So the project was really a success from the very first year. So we dropped the baskets in all those schools and we were going around every Friday to collect the items that the kids were dropping in the baskets every week. So at the end of the school year in June, we organized a very big activity with all the things that we had collected in order to donate them to the kids that needed them to attend school the following year. So this activity became really the opening activity of Mali Jigi. So going to places, trying to figure out who are the kids that needed these items was not really easy. So we decided, why don't we go to organization? Why don't we go to people and NGOs that are actually doing this work of helping kids attend school to ask them for help? So speaking now, it might seem as all of these things came from just like quick thinking, but we had a lot of processing to do in order to come up with these ideas of thinking, who are we going to address, who are we going to talk to? Oh, sorry, can we move to the next slide? This is actually in the next slide. So who are we going to talk to, and how are we going to organize ourselves in order to achieve the goal that we set? So this is the magic formula that we use, the 4W plus the 1H. So the 4Ws are the who, what, where, and when, and the 1H is the how. I'll get to that later. So we went to those partners and we targeted orphanages. So we went to the orphanages and we told them, oh, here are the items that we have, and we would like to donate them to the kids that need them in order to attend school, in order to perfect their education, because we know that they don't have the means to acquire all these books and items and clothes in order to go to school. So that was the very first activity that we did, and the orphanages received it very nicely. So one thing led to another, and a lot of associations wanted to join us in this main activity that we were doing. And in 2017, we came up with this big activity that we wanted to do annually. So the activity consisted of picking 1 or 2 orphanages, depending on the funds that we were able to raise, picking the kids from those orphanages and go out on an excursion. And the excursion, of course, we would need a lot of volunteers to participate to the excursions. And because many associations have seen what we were doing, because mind you, we created a social media platform. So a lot of people were able to see what we were doing and the things we were accomplishing. And this was really inspiring to other young people to join us and to what we're doing. So we had really this big crowd of volunteers following us because they wanted to do the same activities that we were doing, and they were seeing clearly the impact based on the pictures that we were publishing online on Facebook, Instagram, and so on. So starting from there, we decided to start inviting NGOs, international organizations, local businesses to attend our events. So at first it was just a simple invitation, oh, we're doing this event and we would be delighted if you come. And then the following year, it would be more like, oh, we did this activity last year and this year we want to make it broader, we want to make it bigger. So we would really like a little bit of contribution from you. So because they had already participated to the activity, it was really easy for them to see, oh, we know this is what they're doing, it's tangible, we have participated in and we have seen the result. So why not? We would like to participate, we would like to contribute. So that's kind of how we were able to build the partnerships that we had. And talking about the when, it's usually when we are planning to do an activity and we have set the goals and the budget and so on, we really try to start very early, like ahead of time. Sometimes 6 months ahead, sometimes a year ahead, when we go and kind of advertise about the event, ask for people's advice, fine-tune the project, and so on. And I think we had a lot of support from our schools, support in terms of volunteers, and support in terms of credibility because of the crowd that was really following us through all the activities that we were doing. So that's kind of how we were able to build those partnerships and do many of the activities that we did. So next slide, please. So talking about the how, I think Dao touched a lot about this aspect, and I think this is really true. We kind of followed the same process. The how for us was really being able to pitch our project, and it was more of, oh, we try to do it on our own, and we invite you to come and participate, and the next time you want to do it, of course, we know that you want to contribute. Whether it's physically, financially, we're always welcome to do something when we're doing, people are always welcome to do something when we're doing activities. So that's really the how for how we got to gather all these partners that we have in order to conduct our activities. And one of the main examples now is the Ramadan activity that we're doing. We call it Operation Ramadan. And every year, for 7 consecutive years now, we have been able to do it consistently. And each year, our target grows bigger and bigger. Like this year, we have a target of 2,000 people. And maybe 2,500 people, who knows? We are still raising the funds in order to do this activity. And we are at a point now when, of course, we go out to look for partners, but partners are also coming to us, seeing the success of the previous activities that we have done. And they tell us, oh, we want to participate in your activity this year. How can we help? And so this is usually how we go about making partners or reaching out to partners in order to participate to our activities and our projects. And some of the tips I would like to give that I got from experience is that you really need to maintain the relationship with the partners, because it's really important for them to keep track of what you're doing, how you're doing, and show the results of your activity and the impact on the beneficiaries. And you can usually do that by, showing whatever activity that you're doing on your social media, getting people engaged, and really make sure that your activities, at least the biggest activities that you do, you are able to do them repeatedly in order for them to be sustainable and people to know more and more about them. So, am I out of time already?
You have about 2 minutes more, Billy.
Okay. Well, I hope I'm not speaking too fast, because I was kind of scared of being out of time.
No, you're perfectly fine. Was that the end of your presentation?
Yes, I just wanted to highlight the tips, and the key takeaway from the presentation is really, when you want to start an activity, it usually starts with the people around you. Like, I was able to move from my friends from high school, and then my friends from university, and from there, all the people in all these different places were able to build up these partnerships that we have. So I want to highlight that building partnership is also about networking. If you have a network of people that you're able to keep track of, they're usually the people that lead you into these good partnerships that you can foster and develop into, long-term relationships, if I may say, that will really benefit you and your community service projects. So that's basically it. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope I was able to give you some advice and things from my experience that will be helpful to you for your future projects.
Great. Thank you so much, Billy. That was wonderful, and especially getting to hear a little bit more of the tips and tricks and advice to going about developing partnerships was so useful. So we really appreciate that. So we are now going to go into the final section of our webinar today, the Q&A session. So now is the opportunity to ask our panelists any questions you may have about what we've discussed today. Please use the chat feature to type your questions. So myself and our moderators, Micah and Emma, will be looking through the chat and selecting questions to ask Dow, Billy, Rezona, and Joseph. So it looks like we already have a few questions in the chat. So the first one, this was a little bit more directed to Dow, was Dow, over the years, how have you overcome the fears of engaging bigger institutions like the UN for partnerships?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for the question. I think it's a very good question, because oftentimes, like, we always feel like we are not appreciated enough. But based on my experience, so actually my experience with the UN was kind of easy, because I interned with them when I was in the third year at the university. And after that, like, whenever I contact them, it was very easy because I was their former intern. But like for other organizations, I think that most of the organization, like even like some organizations at really high level, like for example, the World Bank or like IMF, which are less relevant to young people, or some regional organization, for example, the European Union or the ASEAN Secretariat. So I mean, like, I do believe that they always support young people, and I mean the key thing is like which one that you need to reach out to. For example, we have so many organizations, like bodies within the European Union, but actually like, they have a very specific directorate for young people, for youth education and sport. So that this is like the directorate that you need to reach out to. For example, similar to ASEAN. So we also have a section on youth education and sport as well. So the key thing is not about like whether we should reach out to them, I think that I do encourage you guys to reach out to them, because definitely they will help you guys. But the more important thing here is who or which body within this organization that you should reach out to. Because like if you reach out to someone who work on politics or political affairs, then obviously like they don't really care about the proposal that you guys send to them. But if you guys reach out to a youth specialist or like a youth department in this organization, then obviously like it's likely that they will answer your request or your questions. So that's my answer for your question. Hopefully it helps.
Great, thanks, Dow. Yeah, I was actually curious about that too, so that was wonderful to hear a little bit more about it. Awesome. So we also had another question in the chat. So this one is a little bit more kind of generalized to our alumni and also to Dow. So if anyone wants to pick it up, that is great. So this one is, as a startup organization, is it advisable that one starts a project before seeking partnership with someone?
Right, I guess I can jump in first, and then three alumni can add their experience later. So I think that for me, it depends on your project. So if you already have some existing connection, then why not? But I mean, like, as I said, that before you try to reach out to them, then you need to have a very concrete idea and sort of maybe a pitch deck or a pitch file or something like that. So when you reach out to them, then you actually know what you do, and you actually know like what they can offer and what they can collaborate with you. So I think that ideally, if you already have the connection, then you can reach out to them. But I think that what I often do is I try to establish a project first, and then after 1 or 2 months, when like everything is up on your social media or your website or something similar like that, then you have something to pitch and to reach out to them, and they can just go to your website or your social media, and they can scroll and they can like go through it, and they can have a basic idea of your project, so it will be easier. But if you have existing contact, then feel free to contact them before establish a project. That's my answer.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, alumni Joseph, Billy, Arizona, do you have anything additional to add to that?
I could answer that, but from my personal experience, the two of the projects I have mentioned in the presentation, for the first project that I did during the menstrual health of the girls, during that project, first need to have a solid plan to tell these people, to actually show them that what you're doing is a concrete plan of what you have. So we had talked to the organization or the company before and told them that this is why we want to collaborate. And for the second project that I had mentioned, first we had launched the project, and after that, we saw that we require some collaborators. So I guess it also depends on the situation of what kind of situation you're in, because some of the times you cannot predict that you would actually need some collaborators to actually make this project a success.
Yeah, definitely. I think kind of being flexible in those situations is always a good thing. Awesome. So we are going to go to our next question, another one that was in the chat. So this one again is to our YES alumni and Dow. So what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced when trying to develop partnerships?
Well, actually, I can. Oh, sorry. Should I go?
Yeah, of course. Go for it, Joseph.
All right. So, out of my personal experience, like the challenge or the challenges that I face when developing partnership is that actually it needs time, and sometimes some partners are like very difficult to work with. So you actually need to be very patient, not actually get on your nerve, and make sure that, because if you have to explain them everything and they have to be in the same line, in fact they have to understand the vision or have the same mindset like you. So it is quite something. Sometimes it is challenging, especially when you are maybe running against time. And yeah, because sometimes you waste a lot of time or a lot of energy explaining and re-explaining again and telling people maybe what to do and going again here and there. So, but actually what I can say is that it actually requires a lot of patience, and yeah, and a lot of commitment to get the work done.
I think I think I totally agree with him, because like one of the biggest challenges that you might face when you just start like, a project is people don't know who you are. So it actually takes like lots of time to invest, like to reach out to people, email them, and then call them. So I actually like, also I am an extrovert, but I find it really difficult to call people like that I don't really know them at all, to call them, email them, like email twice or like 3 times, and then actually like schedule a call with them. And then I remember that when I established a new project, then I had to pitch and arrange a call with like 10 partners every week for like 2 or 3 months. And actually I can just convert like 10 partner like out of like I think 30 organization or 40 organization that I have reached out to. So I think that the biggest challenge here is you need to really consistent, you need to invest your time, and you need to be resilient, because like it's very easy that people will reject you. So that's why you need to be very patient and resilient when reach out to partners, to potential partners.
I also want to jump in and add something to that. I think personally, some of the biggest challenges we faced were really regarding some of the requirements of some of the donators, well, partners that you have. Because when you're working with sensitive subjects, sensitive matters, or when you're seeking out partnership for, just the financial aspect, sometimes partners have certain requirements that don't usually go along or match the needs of the beneficiaries, or because of some cultural aspects, then the things wouldn't match. So you kind of stand in between the partners and the beneficiaries, usually when they're not directly related, because you have to make each of them understand what are the requirements from both sides. And then you in the middle, you have to make things work in order not to offend anyone. So that's one of the challenges that we faced.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's always interesting to work with those challenges and work around them, but it sounds like there's some really good solutions to it too. Awesome. So our next question is also from the chat. So this one is, did you get any surprising data while working in the field? And just to expand on that, was there anything surprising that happened in the field when developing those partnerships?
Yeah, for me, yeah, a lot of surprises actually, especially at the level of participation. Like for my first project, since it was a grant, and I had maybe an estimate of an amount of participants that I want. But at the end of the day, I found myself with like twice, with like twice as much. So actually, I had to navigate again through like the budget, maybe to provide some working equipment, and also like some maybe snacks or meals that they were going to actually take in after the work. So that was actually a huge surprise that I had to I had to actually manage.
Personally, for me, something that I found surprising was when I first started forming this kind of project that required this collaborations. I didn't think a lot of the companies would respond back, especially companies, well-renowned companies or companies that are very big and organizations. I didn't think they would respond back because they think, oh, these are just kids doing some things, because we're really young people and they don't give us that credit, especially in these parts of the world. So when I reached out to them and they actually see it. Well, it takes some time to build that trust and to show them that we are credible enough to be worked with. So after that, they do respond and they give a very positive response. So that was very surprising for me when I first started working like this.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with both of those, and I feel like, as Joseph was mentioning before, I think it just takes a lot of patience to get through that. And but those are definitely some good surprises too. Awesome. So it looks like our next question is directed to Billy and Rezona. So this one is our attendee would like to hear a little bit more about how you dealt with taboo situations when implementing your projects with partners.
For me, when I approached these people about these certain situations or these topics that I wanted to address in our society, they were a bit hesitant in the beginning, but once they actually see that this project is credible and it's sustainable and something actually required, and what they also want to see if so some people are very concerned about what will the other people say and if they will receive any negative comments because they have partnered with us. So they try to see that and they ask us how we are going to handle that situation. So we let them know that during this such taboo projects that we do, we try to keep it a very safe environment and a very close quarters project. So when we bring in minor girls, we try to talk to their parents and see if these parents are okay with us talking to their children about these topics. And we try to include the parents as well as a security for the children and also a security for us, so that none of the collaborators or the people who are actually doing the project receive any negative backlash from these sort of projects. I think it's also very important to make sure that you are working in a safe and secure environment, because some of these taboo topics can really get out of hand, especially when not many people are working with these situations.
As far as I'm concerned, I think one of the projects that we experienced this with was when we worked with women with fistula. Fistula is a medical condition that very common with women. And to explain fistula, well, I don't really want to get into the medical terms, but it's really a disease that it's not a disease, it's a medical condition that make it so that these women are kind of, put aside from society. So working with them was not very easy, and getting partners, how to go about it, how to explain it, because fistula is usually the consequence of early marriage or young girls bearing kids early or the failure of medical infrastructure. So talking about a subject like this and trying to help women that are suffering from this was really, really sensitive, because like Rezona said, they can really go out of hand, and there's a lot of things to point at to say, well, this is the reason why it happened. So when you're talking about it and when you're gathering people, or even when you are trying to get in contact with the people that are suffering from this condition, you have to be very careful. So as far as I'm concerned, we were very lucky, fortunate enough to be working with medical stuff. I was at med school for some years. I was studying chemistry, so many of the volunteers were from the main hospital where these women were taken care of. So they knew a lot about what was going on, and they were really able to give us some heads up on what to expect and what to do, what not to do. So that's how we were able to go about this.
Great. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
To bounce off of Celia, so just as you want to fight this taboo situation, there would be some niche organizations who are also trying to do the same. So it takes a lot of research to find all these companies and organizations who are trying to send in the same information as you out into the society. So it will help a lot if you can try and find all these people that are working with that one taboo topic that you want to fight with. So if you do that, it's safer for you and safer for all the participants also participating, and also easier for you to collaborate with them.
Definitely, definitely, I agree with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Arizona and Feely, for sharing your experience with that. That was wonderful. So that concludes our Q&A session. So thank you everyone for participating and asking such great questions to our guest alumni and Dow, our guest speaker. So before we conclude today's webinar, we would like to ask attendees to complete a brief exit ticket. So please fill out these surveys so we can have your feedback on this virtual event, and you can find the link to the survey in the chat. So please also remember that we will add this webinar with subtitles to the YES YouTube page and website in the coming days. The link to the YES program's website can also be found in the chat. Again, thank you all for participating today, and a big thanks to our amazing panelists, Dow, Arizona, Joseph, and Feely, for sharing your experiences and expertise. So again, please don't forget to fill out that exit survey. We are so glad so many of you could make it to this virtual event. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye, Bree. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
For having us.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.